Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Made Live TV. My name's Yasmin, and I'm the Digital Communications Manager at the Made In Group. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. Her name is Dr. Adrienne Houston, Director at Eurovacuum Products and a successful engineer. Today, Adrienne's joined us to discuss the critical importance of inclusive leadership in uncertain times and make inclusion the secret of high-performing teams. So, hi, Adrienne. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Hi, hello Yasmin, and hello everyone who's listening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk to you about this subject, which is obviously a hot topic right now. I'm glad that Made in the Midlands, a trade association who has over 500 members in the Midlands, is willing to spend some time on this very important subject. But before I start, as you said in your intro, I'm an engineer, and that's how I want to be referred to, because I am really just a normal, everyday engineer who tries to make a difference. So the reason why I got involved with EDI was because of my own diversity story. Where I was discriminated as a young female engineer, but the silver lining was that I created and started my own business from scratch. So because of this reason, and because I was searching for support, I got involved with the Women Engineering Society, who offered me some support, and I worked with them, being the cluster coordinator for the Midlands for over 10 years. And understood, I have now a deeper understanding of the issues female engineers face, not just in the Midlands, but nationally. So that is my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really interesting story, actually, Adrienne. You know, from your own experience, it's enabled you to sort of take this passion for this kind of thing that's happening within the industry. So really, my first question comes into that. So what is your view on diversity within manufacturing specifically? And do you believe there are certain groups that are underrepresented? And has this improved over the years since your experience when you first started out as an engineer?
Yeah, so before I go into my views in the manufacturing industry, I wanted to just explain what diversity means to me, because I think that this term is misused, or could be misused, in my opinion, as a shorthand for the underrepresented population. In other words, I think by lumping a wide range of people into a category of diverse, erases the racial, gender and disability characteristics that we want to value. I also feel that using the term diverse can obscure the talent instead of bringing it to the forefront. So this means that the diverse candidate will become the diversity hire instead of the talented person. Mm-hmm. So that's I think, just by clarifying what it means to me. Also, why do we need diversity? I think engineers, we are all responsible for designing and delivering products, services and infrastructure that are representative or reflective of our society. And for this reason, we need to make sure that engineering outcomes are inclusive and they benefit and they meet the need of our society and the world. So coming back to your question is whether I see underrepresented groups in manufacturing. I mean, I work in a very traditional end of engineering. My company provides vacuum pumps and air blowers for automotive, water, wastewater, food and plastics industry. And our products are pretty much found in the back end of a factory. So not the sexy end, not the exciting end, really the workhorse of any process. And this means that we get the blame as well if something goes wrong.
It's a very important process.
Problem solving is part of our strength. So I don't see many women at all. And I think if you were to put me on a spot, I probably couldn't name any of my customers that are female engineers. On the other hand, I have seen the increase of Black and ethnic minority engineers among my customers, which is great because that group is far more underrepresented than women in the engineering sector.
Yeah, definitely. And why do you think that is? Why don't you think you're seeing women in these roles?
I think it's. I think women tend to go more into science and research because there are more women, or even civil infrastructure, because there's safety in numbers. So when you are the only female engineer on the workshop, it could be intimidating for some, and the facilities within businesses might not be there to accommodate female engineers. Referring to toilets and just general needs.
Yeah, yeah, the small things, but I suppose they're really important, aren't they?
Yes, yes, definitely. So, and also being a business leader, I read some very alarming statistics that only 3% of SME startups are done by women, and only 0.25% of all entrepreneurs are from the Black and ethnic background, which doesn't mean that the talent isn't there. We're just not looking on harnessing that talent in the right way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And do you think it's sort of the way, I don't know, women and men are brought up differently? Just, in fact, the fact that women may be sort of encouraged to take other paths in terms of careers, and that's why we're not seeing as many women in engineering. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I think the perception of engineering among young people is very different from what engineering is.
Hmm.
Engineering is a highly socially impactful, human-centric career. Engineers are there to solve problems and help people,
Hmm.
but young people don't see it like that. Also, I feel that there are not enough role models out there at out there to for them to see
Hmm.
engineers and scientists generally in the back of a factory or tucked away in the lab. And if you don't see a person, you're not going to be one. You're not going to strive to be one of them. So
Yeah,
it's visibility, lack of visibility for sure.
yeah, definitely. And I think, when you were talking about that, then I was kind of thinking of, like, in terms of engineering and science, like people think more along the lines of like Elon Musk. They're not thinking of the other, other parts of engineering and the other important aspects of manufacturing.
That's right. And but we are out there, and even though we only represent 12% of the engineering workforce, I think 51% of the population is women. So there's a massive gap between
Yeah.
12% and 51%.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what can business leaders do to ensure that they're increasing, more backgrounds and introducing, more women into their workplace? And what measures have you taken in your own business in Eurovacuum?
So I think we need to shift the focus from advancing women into engineering. I think if we create a fair environment and a safe environment, that will bring with itself a happy place, a working culture where women will feel safe. 57% of female engineers will leave the profession
Wow.
during their career. So we must ensure, and this happens because of they become carers, whether they for their own children or whether they for their elderly parents. But the caring responsibility still lies with the woman, and mostly, and I feel that companies and businesses are not as flexible as they could be to offer that support.
Hmm.
So I also feel that the drive to diversity has stalled recently because we're approaching it the wrong way, or companies approaching it the wrong way. They parcel these initiatives into mandatory employee training programs, and these programs were probably developed decades ago by men for men, and they think and communicate differently to women. So, and also the anti-conscious bias trainings that are tick boxing exercises, quick fixes, And I think the assumption is that if we train people to be aware of their biases, they will make more objective, unbiased decisions, and diversity will increase. I don't think that's the case. I think we need to open out the discussion. I think we need to learn about each other. We need to understand each other's cultures, and create working cultures where we all feel listened, appreciated, and valued.
Yeah, definitely. And as a director of your very own business, how do you implement this sort of culture into your workplace?
I am a very through my own life, I've come across with some been in very difficult positions, and I have learned to become empathetic, and I developed an allyship for not just people like me, but also for people who don't look like me at all. And I listen. I also make sure that the company's values are represented of the views of the people, and I think that's a success of a good team, that we all have and share the same values. I also allow a space for failure, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I
definitely.
think failure brings innovation, and without failure, if you're scared of failure, you're never going to try.
Yeah.
And I feel that allowing people to make mistakes it drives innovation forward. I try to be fair. I obviously really careful with. I'm a supportive leader, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. And this interview today that we're hosting across our social channels is called "The Importance of Inclusive Leadership." So, what would you say inclusive leadership is? Just in a couple of sentences, what would you say that is?
Inclusive leadership is, in my opinion, is someone who, as I said, who is an ally, because allies drive systematic improvement in workplaces, policies, practices, and cultures. So it's definitely an allyship, and educating yourself and others around you. It's key.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now it'd be good to just talk a little bit about your EDI visiting professor position at a university. So what is your role within that, and how does the higher education framework work? Does it go beyond the ways to increase women in engineering, for example?
So in 2019, I was awarded the visiting professorship at Birmingham University by the Royal Academy of Engineering, and this role is very important to me, and it is a privilege to be part of the academic team at the School of Engineering at Birmingham Uni, and to be part of the education of the next generation of engineers. This role I share with Dr. Donka Novovich, a fellow female engineer from Rolls-Royce. And hopefully we send a positive message to all stakeholders and students that underrepresented groups are not being excluded. However, we've seen in the latest UCAS data applications that only 16% of the applicants for computing and engineering these degrees were women.
Okay, and sorry, was that recently? Was that recently?
2020, so a year out, but that's the latest one that I could get my hands on. And so at this progress, at this increase, it will take us 75 years to make up the gap. Also, with the UK departure from the EU, I think has significantly impacted, as a high proportion of students are international.
Yeah. And what is in terms of what you guys are doing? What are you doing to ensure that number increases?
So I think so my role involves, I'm not quite there to increase participation of girls in engineering, because the girls we see, or the female student we see, they already within the engineering curricula, so they already been captured. So you need to step back, you need to go to primary school, secondary school and sixth form to ensure that we make engineering an attractive proposition for them.
Yeah, of course.
So with that, we need to make sure that parents and teachers buy into the profession. So I'm far too old to to sort of bring the 6 years old and the 12-year-olds with me.
Yeah.
So the students at the university do a lot of outreach, but sadly the result of the outreach is not as quick and can't be measured so quickly. So it will take years for us to see an impact.
Yeah, of
but
course.
In terms of my role, I'm helping to develop their team dynamics through diversity in their group design module projects. I help to embed diversity into their working cultures already. I support the societies within the school, and sometimes just listen to them, because most people want to be heard. And these students just because I'm not an academic member of the team, I'm an industrial connection or expert. We have a different relationship. So last year, they nominated me for an award.
Oh wow!
Which meant so much to me, because
Yeah.
it really showed my value and my efforts.
Yeah, definitely.
Reflected in this nomination.
Yeah.
I think also we can agree that the graduates of 2020 and 21 are the most resilient graduates, because they are up against the pandemic, uncertain job market, competition with experienced hires, and missed networking opportunities. So all of them must be very proud of themselves, or should be very proud of themselves.
Yeah, they most definitely should be, definitely. So as you're part of the advisory board at Birmingham University as well, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So how are you ensuring that their courses are providing the blend of technical, cultural and personal skills that help to ensure the industry is receiving the graduates it needs in the future?
The Industrial Advisory Board is made up of quite a few members, and we all have a very diverse background, actually.
Oh, good to know.
So I bring to the table my SME background and my competencies as a female lead, and also my multidiscipline management skills. Obviously, I work in mechanical, electrical, and process engineering. So these skills are very important in informing the curricula, and I share insight into how engineering is key to addressing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that were signed up, that we all signed up to in 2015. So I hope that that my background from an SME, and not from a corporate background, is giving more insight into a more commercial mindset.
Yeah.
Because the success drivers for universities is very different than the need and the demands of the industry.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I try to connect. I try to connect students and open them up to my network, introduce them to different areas of working groups and LinkedIn groups. I also try to position myself in offering soft skills training, because what I found is the confidence of the underrepresented groups is what they're lacking, and and it is still really sad and worrying that a Black and minority background student, regardless of their grade and accomplishment, is twice as likely to be unemployed 6 months after the graduation. So I'm trying to help them with understanding themselves and overcoming these obstacles. I mean, I can't fix the world, but I can provide them with skills and the confidence to just keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really important point to make, because I think usually we tend to think that it's, businesses who are employing, that it's kind of their fault that there's not enough diversity in manufacturing. But you're right, it's those people who are maybe less confident, who are also not sort of, thinking they're capable of that due to the fact that, of their background and things like that.
Yes, I think we must change our language. We must make sure that the language is attractive to these underrepresented backgrounds. So I think also heard, and I'm sure you know this, that us women, we only tend to go for a job when we think we can meet and tick every box, while men just sort of, they meet one and they're gonna wing the rest. I mean, I'm gonna generalizing, but but this is the case, and I think by supporting them, we can build CVs and their interview techniques better.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's really great to hear that you're doing work alongside the university to achieve that. I think it's really important. So, it'd be great to finish on this last question now with a sort of a positive spin on what we were discussing today. So, what positive change have you seen within the industry in terms of diversity and inclusive leadership?
Well, that we are here today. You have given me the opportunity to talk to you about diversity and inclusion and the need for it. And hopefully, as a trade association, your members will listen and adapt their ways and open this up to a wider conversation within their organisation. So what I've seen since I started in the late 90s, and since then we obviously had the Equality Act 2010, which is a major step forward. And I've seen the increase of company policies and implementation of measurables for creating diverse and inclusive working cultures. But I think the biggest development is that we now understand the obstacles and the barriers underrepresented groups face when pursuing an engineering career. So because we have now a better understanding and we moving away from the stereotypes, we have a better chance of increasing participation and making it a more inclusive culture. But what I wanted to which I've been, people, I don't want to just be a champion of women in engineering, because I think we need to focus on the majority, and if the majority feels understood, that will bring the minority with it. And sadly, in engineering, the male suicide rate is still 4 times higher than the other UK sector, any other UK sector, which is obvious that in order for us our minority groups to be understood, we need to enable the male majority to understand their own diversity story and what makes them different, and to challenge the expectation of their own gender stereotype.
Yeah.
Is negatively affecting them and influencing their workplace culture.
Yeah.
And I think this is key, that we must, with so much discussion on, we just had mental health awareness. I think we must make sure that we have more resources allocated.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose this is sort of great information and great advice to be passed over to industry leaders, especially because they're the ones that can make the change. So those guys at the top of sort of the businesses are the ones that can make the active change. So by changing your thoughts and the culture within your business, we can move towards a more equally diverse industry and workplace overall within no matter what sort of industry that sits within.
That's right, but it shows that the majority doesn't feel supported within engineering.
Yeah.
So I think once we open that out and we address those issues, that will bring with itself a more inclusive and diverse workforce.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation with you today, Adrienne. It really has been interesting. It's opened my thoughts up to things that I, didn't even consider before. So thank you so much. I do really appreciate you coming on today and discussing this. And for everybody watching, if you did miss the beginning of this, or you had to pop off and miss the end of it, you can watch the full interview live on our YouTube channel, and I'll also be sharing it later today on our LinkedIn and our other social channels. So thank you again so much, Adrienne, for joining us today and talking about.
Thanks for having me, Yasmin.
No problem at all. It's really important subject of importance of inclusive leadership that we've spoken about today. So like I said, head over to our YouTube channel if you would like to watch it back. But thank you again for joining us, Adrienne.
No problem. Thanks again.
Okay.
See you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.